world remembers them as giants, men who bent the sport of boxing around their will. But behind the highlight reels lies a set of lives that spiraled, transformed, fractured, and rebuilt in ways few ever saw coming. From the heavyweight kings who ruled the world to the featherweight superstar who shocked it, this is what happened after the roar of the crowd faded, and why their stories only grew stranger, darker, and more incredible with time. And the most unexpected twist? It belongs to the fighter few believed would ever return from the edge. Muhammad Ali's prime wasn't just a chapter in sports history, it was a cultural earthquake. He entered the heavyweight division like a force of nature, a man whose speed broke physics and whose charisma broke tradition. The world had never seen a heavyweight who moved with such grace, taunted with such poetry, and fought with such conviction. Ali was more than a champion. He became a symbol of rebellion, confidence, and social consciousness. His refusal to enter the Vietnam War draft turned him from athlete to activist, costing him titles and nearly destroying his career. Yet it forged a legend stronger than any victory. When he returned, he created moments that reshaped boxing. The war with Joe Frazier, the miracle against George Foreman, the brutal chess match with Ken Norton. But behind the spectacle, subtle signs began to appear. Slower reactions, heavier punishment absorbed, long nights in training that took more out of him than before. Ali kept fighting, driven by pride, purpose, and the pressure of being Muhammad Ali. But every round, every war, every triumphant stand came with a hidden price, a price that would change the rest of his life forever and reveal a battle no audience could cheer him through. As the years passed after retirement, Ali transformed from the world's most electrifying fighter into one of its most powerful symbols of humanity. Parkinson's began to steal the physical gifts that once set him apart. His voice softened, his hands trembled, and the quickness that defined him slowly faded. Yet in an unexpected twist, Ali became even larger outside the ring than he ever was inside it. He traveled the globe as a humanitarian, met world leaders, comforted children, and stood as a beacon of resilience. The man who once dazzled arenas now inspired millions through silence, grace, and presence. His lighting of the Olympic cauldron in 1996 remains one of the most emotional moments in sports, a reminder that courage isn't measured only in punches thrown. In his final decade, Ali's public appearances grew rare, but each one resonated, proof that greatness, true greatness, can transcend physical limitation. When he passed in 2016, the world mourned not just a champion, but a moral giant whose legacy stretched far beyond boxing. His story closed with dignity, but it left behind a lingering question. How does a fighter prepare for a battle that can't be won with strength or speed, only with spirit? Mike Tyson's rise was a phenomenon that felt almost supernatural. Emerging from a turbulent childhood, he became the youngest heavyweight champion in history, smashing opponents with a ferocity rarely seen in professional sports. Tyson didn't just win, he annihilated, ending fights before commentators could finish their introductions. His peekaboo style, explosive power, and predatory aura made him appear unstoppable, a modern gladiator built for destruction. But behind the intimidation lay chaos, grief from losing his mentor, Cus D'Amato, manipulation from those around him, overwhelming fame, and a personal life spiraling out of control. As fast as he rose, the cracks deepened, public scandals, a disastrous marriage, lawsuits, and a growing sense that Tyson was fighting more demons outside the ring than inside it. His conviction and prison sentence became a global spectacle, altering the trajectory of his career forever. Even after his release, his comeback carried the shadow of instability. Losses to Buster Douglas, Lennox Lewis, and ultimately himself exposed a truth fans didn't want to admit. Tyson's most dangerous opponent wasn't a heavyweight in gloves, it was the storm inside him, a storm that threatened to erase everything he once was, unless he could rewrite the ending. Tyson's life after boxing became one of the most dramatic reinventions in sports history. After squandering hundreds of millions, filing for bankruptcy, and hitting emotional rock bottom, he slowly rebuilt himself into a global personality unrecognizable from the rage-fueled fighter he once was. Today, Tyson's empire includes entertainment ventures, best-selling books, and a massive cannabis business generating millions yearly. His podcast Hotboxin turned him into a philosopher of pain and growth, offering raw reflections on trauma, fame, and redemption. And yet, the old fire still flickers. Viral training clips in his 50s showed frightening flashes of his former power, igniting whispers of potential exhibitions and reminding the world that Tyson's essence never truly vanished. But the deeper story is his peace. He laughs easily now, acknowledges past mistakes, and embraces vulnerability. He built a new identity, not from fear or fury, but from acceptance. Tyson's present is a second life, one that proves even the most turbulent legacy can be reshaped. And as he moves forward, another legend tells a far different story, one of a champion whose heart inside the ring couldn't protect him from the battles waiting outside it. Evander Holyfield entered boxing with a demeanor that felt almost misleading. He wasn't the loudest, the biggest, or the most intimidating, yet beneath that calm exterior lived one of the sport's most relentless warriors, rising from cruiserweight domination to challenge the giants of the heavyweight era. Holyfield earned a reputation built not on flash, but on heart, an ability to absorb punishment, dig deeper than logic should allow, and push forward when the world expected him to fold. His trilogy with Riddick Bowe became the stuff of legend, a brutal symphony of endurance and willpower. But it was his rivalry with Mike Tyson that permanently etched his name into worldwide consciousness. The stunning upset in their first fight, followed by the infamous bite fight, made Holyfield an icon of resilience in chaos. Yet behind the victories and global headlines, Holyfield's body paid a steep price. He trained like a machine, fought through illnesses, ignored warnings, and pushed himself far beyond the limits most fighters respect. Even at the height of his success, the signs were there: slurred speech, fatigue, overtraining. Holyfield kept going, driven by faith, pride, and an almost supernatural toughness. But as his career extended deeper into his 40s, the sport that had made him a legend began quietly draining something more precious than titles: his financial stability and personal peace. And as the crowds faded, the real battle was only beginning. The years after Holyfield's retirement painted a drastically different picture from the glory-filled chapters of his fighting youth. Despite earning well over $200 million, financial troubles engulfed him. Lavish spending, failed business ventures, child support battles, and questionable investments pulled him into a spiral that culminated in the foreclosure of his massive Georgia mansion. Once a symbol of his success, now a headline of his fall. Holyfield attempted multiple comebacks long after his prime, chasing not only competition but stability. But time had taken its toll, and the sharpness that once defined him had faded. Slowly, he shifted away from the ring and toward appearances, charity work, and motivational speaking, building a quieter, more reflective life. His surprising 2021 exhibition attempt highlighted the difficult truth many fighters face. The body ages, but the competitive spirit struggles to accept it. Yet through the adversity, Holyfield remains dignified, still soft-spoken, still driven by faith, still hoping to inspire. Though the world often remembers him for the Tyson rivalry, his real story is one of endurance long after the gloves came off. And the next fighter on this list knew exactly how to turn the end of a boxing career into something entirely unexpected and far more profitable. George Foreman's early career unfolded like a myth carved from raw power. Towering, formidable, and ruthlessly efficient, he tore through the heavyweight division with knockout after knockout, projecting an aura of unstoppable menace. When he claimed the heavyweight title in 1973 by destroying Joe Frazier, the world believed it had found its next long-term ruler. But Foreman's empire cracked sooner than expected. In the Rumble in the Jungle, Muhammad Ali executed a masterful plan, letting Foreman punch himself into exhaustion before finishing him in the 8th round. That defeat shattered Foreman's identity. Years later, in Puerto Rico, Foreman collapsed after a loss to Jimmy Young and experienced a profound spiritual awakening. Overnight, the fearsome destroyer reinvented himself as a preacher, walking away from the sport and devoting his life to faith and community. For nearly a decade, boxing seemed like a closed chapter, but bills and responsibilities grew, and Foreman made a decision that stunned the world. He returned to the ring in his late 30s. Initially mocked for his weight and age, Foreman proved critics wrong, with grit, intelligence, and devastating power that never left him. In 1994, at age 45, he shocked the world again by knocking out Michael Moorer to reclaim the heavyweight crown, completing one of the most remarkable comebacks in sports history. And yet, astonishingly, his greatest victory was still ahead. In the decades following his final retirement, George Foreman became one of the most extraordinary examples of transformation the sport had ever seen. The former heavyweight destroyer evolved into a warm, smiling figure known as much for his gentle wisdom as for his concussive power. His business empire flourished, with the George Foreman Grill becoming a cultural phenomenon and turning him into one of the wealthiest athletes in history. Unlike so many fighters who faced financial collapse, Foreman managed his success with care, discipline, and the same steady patience he once used to stalk opponents across the ring. His life grew centered around family, faith, philanthropy, and mentorship, spending years supporting youth programs and guiding troubled teens with the same conviction that had once fueled his comebacks. As he aged, Foreman remained a beloved presence in media, appearing in documentaries, interviews, and occasional commentary. His deep laugh, reflective storytelling, and generous nature made him a symbol of second chances done right. But time, undefeated and relentless, began to slow him. Public appearances grew infrequent, his movements quieter, his days more focused on family and spiritual work. Yet even as his physical presence diminished, his influence remained enormous. A reminder that legacy isn't only measured in victories, but in the lives shaped beyond the spotlight. In March of 2025, Foreman passed away at 76, surrounded by loved ones. The news sent ripples across the world. Tributes poured in from champions he inspired, from fans who admired him, and from communities he had quietly supported for decades. His death marked the end of a life that stretched far beyond the ropes, a journey that began in violence, transitioned through faith, and concluded in profound respect. And even in passing, Foreman left behind a final lesson that reinvention is possible at any age, and that sometimes the greatest chapters come long after the fighting stops. The next name on this list lived a career defined by brilliance and swagger, only to vanish almost overnight, leaving fans wondering how someone so loud could disappear so completely. Prince Naseem Hamed's life after boxing has become one of the sport's most captivating disappearances, a retreat so complete, so sudden, and so enigmatic that it elevated him from superstar to myth. When he walked away from the ring in 2002, fans expected a comeback, a reinvention, or at least a farewell fight. Instead, Naseem did what almost no fighter in history has ever done. He vanished on his own terms, shutting the door on a career still burning with potential. And what followed was a life that few could have predicted. In retirement, Naseem moved quietly into extreme wealth, having already earned tens of millions during his championship run. Unlike many fighters who burned through fortunes, he invested, diversified, and kept a close circle of advisors he trusted completely. His financial stability became a foundation for the lifestyle he now enjoys, one of privacy, luxury, and an almost monastic distance from the chaos of fame. Expensive homes, high-end cars, and long stays in Dubai or wealthy sectors of the UK are common for him, though he almost never flaunts them publicly. For a man who once basked in theatrical entrances, the irony is striking. The prince, who lived for attention, now avoids it almost entirely. His dramatic weight gain made headlines for years, spawning speculation about his health, habits, and state of mind. But those close to him insist the transformation reflects nothing more than a man who no longer lives under the brutal discipline of cutting weight. After nearly 2 decades of constant physical strain, Naseem embraced a life free from the rigid demands of training camps. And despite media shock, he rarely comments on his appearance, dismissing inquiries with humor or silence. His comfort with his body, his space, and his peace suggests a deeper truth. Naseem no longer feels the need to perform for anyone. Yet even in seclusion, the prince's influence continues to echo across the sport. Modern fighters, from flashy featherweights to unorthodox punchers, openly cite him as a template for showmanship and style. His head movement, his footwork, the way he blended arrogance with precision, all of it became a blueprint for a new era. When footage of him attending the 2022 Alexander Usyk vs. Anthony Joshua fight surfaced, fans reacted as if a legend had emerged from hiding. Clips of him walking into the arena went viral immediately, reminding the world that even 2 decades removed from competition, he still commands an unmistakable aura. Not many retired fighters can create headlines simply by standing ringside. Naseem's rare interviews offer only fragments of insight. He expresses satisfaction with his career, insisting he accomplished what he set out to do. He shows no regret about retiring early, no longing for the spotlight, no desire to rewrite the past. His confidence remains intact, though softened. There is pride, but not aggression, nostalgia, but not longing. In one conversation, he hinted that boxing had taken more from him mentally and emotionally than fans ever realized, a subtle acknowledgement that leaving may have been an act of self-preservation rather than surrender. He has also spoken about wanting to raise his children away from the pressures and public glare he once embraced. Yet the world around him continues to debate. Was his retreat a missed opportunity? Did he walk away before unlocking his full potential? Could he have dominated another era? These questions follow him because his departure created a vacuum, the kind only true prodigies leave behind. And perhaps that is why he never answers them. The mystery maintains his legacy as much as his highlight reel does. Today, the prince lives a life defined not by public expectation, but by personal choice. He spends time with his family, manages his business interests discreetly, and steps into public view only when he genuinely wishes to. There are no training comeback rumors, no exhibition whispers, no attempts to recapture lost glory. Naseem Hamed seems perfectly content with the life he crafted for himself, one built on silence instead of spectacle. And maybe that is the final twist in his story. The fighter who dazzled the world with theatrics ended up teaching a lesson in stillness. The boxer who entered arenas like royalty now walks streets like a man free from kingdoms. In a sport where legends often fall into chaos after fame fades, Prince Naseem chose a different path, one of privacy, peace, and control. A life far removed from the magic carpets, backflips, and knockout roars, yet every bit as fascinating. The stories of Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, George Foreman, and Prince Naseem Hamed reveal a truth far deeper than any highlight reel. Their primes turned them into giants, but their lives after boxing expose the reality that greatness doesn't end when the final bell rings. It simply changes shape. Ali showed how a fighter's spirit can outlive the body that once carried it. Tyson demonstrated that chaos and redemption can coexist inside the same life. Holyfield proved that even the toughest warriors are vulnerable to the pressures that wait outside the ring. Foreman became a symbol of second chances, building an empire long after the world assumed his story was finished. And Prince Naseem's retreat into privacy revealed the rarest twist of all, a superstar choosing peace over legacy, disappearing by choice rather than defeat. Each man left behind more than belts or records. They left lessons about resilience, identity, and the cost of brilliance. Boxing made them legends, but time forced them to confront who they were without the roar of the crowd. Some found fortune, some found meaning, some found struggle, and some found silence. Yet all of them carved out lives that remain as compelling as their careers, proving that the journey after fame can be just as dramatic, unpredictable, and unforgettable as anything inside the ropes. In the end, these fighters remind the world that no champion stays frozen in their prime. The speed fades, the power dims, but the stories, the real stories, only grow stronger with age. And for every legend whose path we've explored, there are others whose rise, fall, and transformation are waiting to be uncovered, each carrying a twist that even the sport's most devoted fans never saw coming.